Alright, so with the new March 7th hunt form coming out with 2.4, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering on who they should be building or looking forward to using with March, and who you kind of want to be avoiding, what supports, what sustain, all that kind of stuff, just how you want to go about building a team. I've been getting a lot of comments asking like, hey, is this unit good with the new March? So I sort of wanted to address how you kind of want to go about using her. So again, in this general guide, I'm sort of going to be taking you over some things you want to note, what I recommend learning first, and then taking you through some characters that I would recommend and how you kind of want to go about it, including other DPSs, including sustains, which sustain is kind of self-explanatory, but still, and then harmony supports and how you kind of have it work, and then sort of how you want the team to function. This will obviously include some characters you want to avoid, and yeah, that's all I gotta say. Before I get to the video, drop a like, drop a sub, hit the bell icon for more videos like this, and let's get straight into it. So there are two things I would want you to note first before I get into the actual guide. The first one, and the most important one, is that March 7th, this form practically works with every single unit in the game. I say practically because there are some you still want to avoid. I would definitely recommend reading on her kit first, just so you can kind of understand what I'm coming with. But the main reason is because of the skill, given the person you select 10% speed, and then depending on the path that you chose to have that person become the Shifu, or what was called Master previously, it will give you effects based on that. So if you're Erudition, Destruction, or the Hunt, using basic attack or dealing one hit of enhanced basic attack damage triggers the effect of dealing additional damage based on the Shifu's combat type. So if you give someone the buff, and let's say they're lightning, that extra damage dealt will be lightning. And that is equal to 20% of March 7th's attack. And if they are harmony, nihility, preservation, or abundance, instead of the additional attack, the toughness reduction of the damage instance is increased by 100%. So one just gives you more damage, and the other one gives you a bunch more toughness reduction. But yeah, with that out the way, now coming to first talking about who you probably want to avoid using her with. There is very few characters that you want to avoid using her with because, again, as I mentioned, she practically works with everyone because she has a use in every sort of slot in. Even if she might not be too optimal, she's still good to the point where you still can do it. But there are some where it becomes generally detrimental. And there are three teams I can think of on the top of my head where you do want to avoid this. Two teams are similar, and that is both the meta break teams, so with Boothill and Firefly. These two characters I do not recommend using this March with, which while yes she can help with some additional damage, that extra damage is not worth trading off of what the other units on the team that already exist provide. Everyone on the more optimal teams for Firefly and Boothill already provide them the most value and pretty much are just super important to have. So you already have the unit on that team, which is Firefly or Boothill, so that's one slot. And then the other slot is always filled by the sustain, which I'm going to use Gallagher in this example because he is the break sustain. And then the last two slots are also extremely crucial. Usually it's always Ruan Mei, providing all the stuff she does, weakness break efficiency, break effect, damage dealt, all the stuff she does provide is extremely important, weakness break extension. She is a very irreplaceable teammate. And then if you're running Firefly, you're usually running Harmony Trailblazer, which is extremely crucial to keep because of the damage up you get with Harmony Trailblazer, so that is not a replaceable option. And then on Boothill, you want him to attack as much as possible himself. While the speed March can provide can be helpful there, you're much better off running someone that can give him a turn, such as Bronya. And so for the most part, these two teams do not have options for you to replace. Because you can sub them in theoretically, but the trade-off for damage for fun or whatever reason you're doing this for is extremely big, so it is definitely not recommended to do this. The only time I can think of something just doing anything similar to that is if you're doing a sustainless run, which for the most part you'll never be doing. So for the most part, for these two teams, don't recommend it at all. And then the last team is actually the Acheron team. For the same reasons as the break teams, even at E0 or E2, for the most part the team is set. You have Acheron, and you have the sustain, and then the sustain usually being someone like Fushuan or Aventurine. And then the last two slots, most people with E0, that is filled by two nihility characters, and you're better off getting the full passive off the two nihility characters. While you don't need it, you still should get it, since you're much better off getting the one nihility. And if you are someone with E0 doing one nihility, usually your last slot, even at E2 or E0, is going to be filled with the harmony support, mainly Sparkle, because the damage jump is insane. So Acheron, your sustain. And then if you're E2, you have one nihility because you always have one nihility with her, and then your last slot would be a sustain. And if you're at E0, you might be doing that same setup, or you're doing two nihilities, so there is another time where no one is replaceable. So for those reasons, these three teams are the times you want to avoid using March in general. But enough about who you want to avoid. Now let's get on to who you want to be using. So as I mentioned, I did say read up on our kit so you can sort of understand how it works. So the whole thing of your Shifu or Master is going to be the one giving March stacks in order to get into her enhanced basic attack, because we need to have 7 points. You get the enhanced basic attack, getting the turn again and being able to attack. Do note that March herself is a DPS. She wants to be dealing damage. And so getting charges is extremely crucial because that enhanced basic attack is going to hit very hard. and her ultimate can hit pretty hard as well. And so, thanks to her skill, usually you just want to pair with someone that can generate stuff really quickly. So naturally, you do want to use her with units that are really quick. Either really quick or can generate a lot of turns themselves, or having a Harmony support help with that. Great examples are actually follow-up units, because when someone does attack or use ultimate, that's when March gains a stack. So if you pop the March 7 skill on someone like Topaz, as we know, attacks a lot because of Numby. Topaz has naturally high speed, gains a lot of turns. It's really easy to get the enhanced charges for March, so she'd be someone that you could actually use pretty easily. And then since she's Hunt, March will be dealing increased damage with the part of her skill that lets her do that, of being fire, because Topaz would be fired in that situation. So the synergy there works really well. Same thing could be applied with someone like Ratio if you have a more speedy Ratio. Same thing can apply there, because the skill would give you a stack, the follow would give you a stack, and you just kind of want to work it towards getting March stacked up as fast as possible. And as we do know, follow-up characters are the characters that you can get up charges for that kind of stuff as quickly as possible, because you can attack when it's not your turn. You have someone like Aventurine who does follow-up attacks based on getting hit when he does build up the stacks himself, because he's able to do that by getting the shield hit. Numby can attack whenever it is possible. Ratio is the only character that kind of needs to attack to do it, but that's not even true, because if you do have his ultimate Wise One volley up, anytime something is just hitting them, so if you have a Numby attack hit someone, then you can just proc that up with Ratio so you can get more charges via that. And so that's another option you can do. So follow-up characters would be a great candidate to do if you want to have some fun with that. But there are two characters for that follow-up path that I do want to very much have a brief talk about with, and that is both Destruction characters Clara and Yunli. It's pretty obvious why I say this is because they both are counter units. They attack, when they get hit, they counter, and that counter would give March a stack, so propping that onto March would be giving her the increased damage because they're Destruction. And since you can get so many counters off by enemies attacking you, and enemies nowadays are really fast and get a lot of turns, Sevarog counters or Yunli's counters would be getting you a lot of stacks for your March, enabling you to pretty much get the enhanced charge very quickly. So these are two characters that are going to also work very well, very notable, probably the most notable that I want to mention. And then the last character I do want to talk about kind of more on the separated side is Zele, because as we do know, Zele has Resurgence. You're able to get a bunch of turns with Resurgence, and so the more times you can attack, the more charges you generate for March, the easier it is to get stacks for her and get her the enhanced attack. So Zele can also be another really good jetting option for the charges on your March. So these kind of teams, so follow-up characters, Clara, Yunli mainly is what I want to talk about, and then also Zele because of how they're able to generate it, because follow-up attacks, being able to get multiple in there, Zele getting multiple turns, Yunli, Clara being able to get it off counters. That's sort of how I want to talk about that. But as I mentioned, this March actually works with practically anyone in the game. You can actually put her on our Dot team, because Dot is also naturally fast, and because they are Nihility, instead of getting the additional attack, you'll be getting the toughness reduction instance of damage, and that can help you break. And you know, breaking on a Dot team is good because they have less chances to attack you. You can get more attacks off. And then, as I mentioned, Dot characters are very fast. Kafka extremely fast. Black Swan built very fast. Every Dot character is built really quick. So that's another general team you can also use to gain her some stacks. Putting the buff on your Black Swan, you'd mostly be putting it on your Kafka because she's going to be the fastest on that team, but you have a lot of options on that team. So that's kind of enough about the DPSs. The moral of it is you want to place her on either a fast team so you can get as fast charges as possible on your March herself, or place her with follow-up characters who can generate her stacks even faster, even if they're not super fast themselves. Like Yunli and Clara are super slow, but they can get a bunch of attacks off thanks to their counter, being able to stack her up faster than anyone potentially. And then since no matter what you place as a Shifu, if they're whatever path, both are going to be really helpful, because the toughness reduction helping you weak this break is going to be really good no matter the team. And then if they're the other ones where you do additional damage, that's just more damage you can deal, so that's even more beneficial there. But enough about DPSs, let's sort of talk about Harmony supports. So this is going to practically be a no-brainer, because as we do know, March wants to get as many stacks as possible by having the Shifu attack as much as possible. So who is going to be really good for that? It is going to be your action advancing supports. Sparkle, Bronya, to name the specifics. Bronya being able to give you a full turn to attack again means getting more stacks for your March. And then Sparkle being able to give you a 50% action forward, which tuned properly can practically become a free turn every time as well. These two are going to be the best ones you can use, especially with their ultimates benefiting the entire team. So it's not just benefiting the character you select to give her more stacks, they're actually going to be buffing March as well. So March gets more damage out of that too. So you'd have a faster team or more of a single-sided DPS that attacks a lot, and then you pair someone like Sparkle or Bronya, then they're already fast, getting turns themselves, and now you have another character giving in more turns that also byproducts giving you more stacks on your March. So the synergy there plays out really well. And then the next two supports are mainly ones because they do increase speed by a good amount, and that's obviously Ruan Mei, but who isn't Ruan Mei good with, so this was a no-brainer. And then the other one's actually Asta. Asta, mainly I want to talk about because I'm just going to assume everyone knows why Ruan Mei is going to be good. Weakness break efficiency, damage dealt, break effect, everything she provides is going to help your entire team, March, and your other DPS. The speed provided is going to help both of them as well, so not much to talk about there. But Asta, she's a bit slept on now, but that 50 speed her ultimate gives is extremely good. So if you already have a fast DPS, or if you have a DPS on the more mid side, let's say just a breakpoint ratio, or whatever team you are running, I'm just giving examples here, giving them 50 speed is going to get them having a lot more turns throughout that, and obviously the more turns they get, the more charges for your March. More charges for your March, more enhanced basic attacks, way more damage output. And then Asta herself also has some attack percent provided from the talent and whatever she does. So it's not just the speed being provided, there is also other things benefiting your main DPS that's doing damage and also your March. And yeah, so just to quickly reiterate, the moral of this is she works with almost every DPS in the game. You mainly want to pair her with units that can stack her up as fast as possible, and that's obviously going to be follow-up units as they get the most turns. To name a few specific ones is Clara and Yunli because they can potentially gain her the most stacks because they attack when they're attacked, so they can attack and give her a stack, and anytime they retaliate with a counter, that's also going to give her another stack, so they have potential to stack her up faster than anyone else. Zayale with her Resurgence is also going to be really good because how many turns you can get, and just having all these attacks spam, Resurgence proccing, that's going to be more stacks. So those are sort of to name the few specific ones, and then any team that is on the faster side, so Dot team is going to be really good, is sort of how you want to be running her on a team. She is extremely flexible thanks to what she does. Practically everyone in the game can benefit from the 10% speed, and then since she gets a bonus effect for having any sort of path selected as a Shifu, she can actually do a lot. And then you'd place the Harmony support, and the best one would be one that would give you action advance, so Sparkle and Bronya to name two specific ones, because the more turns you get, the more turns you can get. And then I did say I would talk about sustains, but there is practically no point. The sustain is there just to keep you guys alive. So whether you're running Fushwan to benefit the team with Kure and all that, whether you're running Aventurine to become immortal, whether you're running a healer, whatever you're doing is going to be really good. Aventurine, as I mentioned, prevents your team from dying. Fushwan can benefit your team with crit rate, and since March is doing damage, she wants a crit. The crit rate from Fushwan will be helpful. Running her with Wolf will be fine because the attack percent and also energy for the ult uptime is also going to be fine. And yeah, that is the video. That's how you want to go about using this March and who you kind of want to be building. I know it's a lot more broad. It's not like a specific 1, 2, 3 teammates that you want to do, except if you just go off the fact that I mentioned that Clara, Yunli, Zayla are going to be really good. This March is thankfully a very good 4-star and is also extremely flexible. So there's going to be a lot of options with her. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be happy about that because variety is always good. Obviously, some options are going to be better than the others, but that doesn't mean you can't use the others. It's just best to not use her when it is completely detrimental, as I mentioned on the break teams, as they already have their premium slots filled and you don't really want to change those. And then on Acheron, because she also has the same thing where you have these specific teammates and you don't want to twinker around that too much because you'll be losing out a lot of damage from your Acheron. But yeah, hope you guys found the guide helpful. Let me know what kind of teams you guys have in mind. Me personally, the most common one I'm probably going to do is her, Yunli, a sustain, and someone like Sparkle. But yep, that's it. Again, hope you guys found the guide helpful. Peace out.